The morning of June 15th started like any other Saturday. I made my coffee, sat on the porch of my small house in suburban Chicago, and watched the neighborhood wake up. I had no idea that in less than 3 hours, my granddaughter would say something that would fundamentally change how I saw my family, and more importantly, how I saw myself. My phone rang at 9:30. It was Jessica, my oldest son's daughter, 28 years old, bright, ambitious, and until that morning, the apple of my eye. "Grandpa, are you sitting down? I have the most amazing news." I smiled. Jessica's enthusiasm had always been infectious. "I'm sitting, sweetheart. What's going on?" "Brandon proposed. We're getting married." I felt genuine happiness flood through me. Brandon seemed like a decent young man. They had been dating for 3 years. "That's wonderful, Jessica. Congratulations to both of you." "There's more, Grandpa. We found the perfect venue. It's this gorgeous estate in Lake Forest. Grandpa, it's like something out of a magazine. But here's the thing." Her voice shifted slightly. "It's $80,000 just for the venue and catering. Dad said he can't help much right now with the twins starting college, and Mom's business is struggling. Brandon's parents are contributing $30,000, but we're still short. I know it's a lot to ask, but—" I closed my eyes. I had worked for 43 years as a master carpenter, building custom furniture and cabinets for wealthy clients across the North Shore. I had saved carefully, lived modestly, invested wisely. I had money set aside for my grandchildren's futures. Jessica was my eldest grandchild. If not now, when? "Tell me more about this venue," I said. For the next 20 minutes, she described every detail: the gardens, the ballroom, the terrace overlooking Lake Michigan. Her voice carried such hope, such dreams. She reminded me of her grandmother, my late wife Sarah, who had passed away 6 years earlier. Sarah had always wanted to see our grandchildren married. "I'll help you," I said finally. "Consider it my wedding gift to you both." The sound of her crying with joy made me tear up. "Grandpa, thank you. Thank you so much. I promise I'll make you so proud. This is going to be the most beautiful wedding." Over the next 4 months, I watched Jessica plan her dream wedding. I met with her every few weeks, listening to her talk about flowers, music, seating arrangements. I transferred the $50,000 to her account without hesitation. She hugged me tight each time we met, called me the best grandfather in the world. I should have noticed the signs earlier. Small things. She stopped asking about my week, my health, my life. Our conversations became one-sided. She talked, I listened. When I mentioned feeling tired lately, she barely acknowledged it before launching into another wedding detail. When I asked if Sarah could attend with me, referencing my late wife's sister who shared her name, she said, "Sure, Grandpa, whatever," without really listening. But I attributed it to wedding stress. Young people get caught up in these things. I remembered my own wedding planning had consumed me too. The phone call came 3 weeks before the wedding. I was in my workshop, sanding down a rocking chair I was making for Jessica's future nursery. Thinking ahead, always thinking ahead. "Grandpa, we need to talk about something." Jessica's voice carried a tone I had never heard from her before. Careful, calculated. "Of course, sweetheart." So, Brandon's mother brought something up. And honestly, I've been thinking about it too. It's about the wedding photos. I stopped sanding. "The wedding photos?" "Yeah. So, we're doing this whole aesthetic thing, right? Very elegant, very sophisticated. Brandon's family is they're very appearance conscious." And his mother pointed out that, well, you know how wedding photos last forever? Something cold settled in my stomach. "I'm listening." "Grandpa, you're 67. And I mean, you look great for your age, but the thing is, we want our wedding photos to look really polished, professional. And Brandon's mom thinks, and I kind of agree, that having older people in the main photos might date them. Like, people will look at them in 20 years and it'll look old-fashioned. I set down the sandpaper. My hand was shaking slightly. Jessica continued, her words coming faster. "So we were thinking, maybe you could still come to the ceremony, obviously, but during the photo sessions, maybe you could just, step aside. We'll get some family shots with you separately. Maybe casual ones. But for the main photos, the ones we're framing and putting in the album, we want to keep it to people who are, more photogenic." "More photogenic," I repeated slowly. "Don't take it personally, Grandpa. It's not about you. It's about the overall aesthetic. Brandon's parents are paying $30,000, and they want the photos to reflect a certain image. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I understood that I had just been told I was too old, too wrinkled, too imperfect for my granddaughter's perfect day. The day I was funding. Does your father know you're saying this to me? I asked quietly. Dad gets it. He said it's my wedding and my choice. Look, Grandpa, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just being honest about what we want. Isn't honesty important? Honesty. She wanted to talk about honesty. You're right, Jessica, I said. Honesty is very important. So you understand? You're okay with this? I understand perfectly. Thank you for being honest with me. Oh, good. I was so worried you'd be upset. You're the best, Grandpa. I'll see you at the rehearsal dinner, okay? Love you. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my workshop for a long time after that call. The rocking chair remained half-finished. Around me were pieces of furniture I had built over the decades, each one crafted with care, precision, love. I had built furniture for some of the wealthiest families in Illinois. Senators, CEOs, old money families who appreciated quality and craftsmanship. I was sought after, respected in my field. But to my granddaughter, I was not photogenic enough for her wedding photos. That evening, I called my son, Jessica's father. Dad, before you say anything, I know she handled it badly, he started. But it's her day. Brandon's family is very particular about appearances. You know how those people are. Those people are contributing $30,000, I said. I'm contributing $50,000. Do I get a say? Dad, please don't make this difficult. Jessica's stressed enough. Can't you just let this one thing go? She's not saying you can't come. Just be low-key during photos. Low-key. You know what I mean, don't make waves. She's my daughter and she's getting married. I need you to support me on this. I hung up feeling something I had not felt in years. Truly, completely alone. That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Sarah. What would she say? She had adored Jessica, had held her minutes after she was born, had babied her endlessly. Would she have tolerated this? No. Sarah had never tolerated disrespect from anyone. But more than that, I thought about myself. Who had I become? When had I become someone whose own family felt comfortable treating him as disposable? The next morning I drove to my lawyer's office. Gerald Morrison had handled my affairs for 30 years. He looked up in surprise when I walked in without an appointment. Robert, everything okay? I need to make some changes, Gerald. For the next hour, I explained everything. The wedding, the money, the phone call. Gerald listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. And you've already transferred the $50,000? He asked. Yes, 4 months ago. He leaned back in his chair. Robert, I've known you since before Sarah passed. You're one of the most generous, kind-hearted people I know. But kindness without respect is just enabling bad behavior. I know. What do you want to do? I want to know my options. Gerald pulled up some files on his computer. The venue in Lake Forest. Lakeshore Manor Estate, correct? That's the one. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Then he stopped. Looked at his screen. Looked at me. Robert, do you own Lakeshore Manor? I nodded slowly. His jaw dropped. How did I not know this? It's held under an LLC. Different name. I bought it 22 years ago as an investment property. Sarah and I used to go there for events. When it went up for sale, I bought it. It's been managed by a property company ever since. Weddings, corporate events, whatever they book. Does Jessica know? No one knows. My son doesn't know. I never mentioned it because it seemed like bragging. It was just an investment. Good income, steady appreciation. Gerald sat back. Well, this changes things considerably. What are my options? He thought for a moment. Legally, you own the property. You can refuse service to anyone, for any reason, as long as it's not discriminatory under protected categories. Family disputes don't fall under protected categories. You could cancel their event. What about the deposit? According to standard contracts, deposits are non-refundable unless the venue cancels. If you cancel as the owner, they'd likely lose all deposits. How much did they put down? $10,000 from Brandon's parents. Jessica used $5,000 from what I gave her. $15,000 they'd lose. Plus they'd need to find a new venue 3 weeks before the wedding, In peak season, that's essentially impossible. I stared at my hands. Carpenter's hands. Strong hands that had built beautiful things for decades. Hands that had held my wife as she died. Hands that had held my newborn grandchildren. Hands that apparently were too old and unphotogenic for wedding photos. I need to think about this, I said. Think carefully, Robert. If you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Jessica, with your son, it will be permanently altered. I understand. Over the next week, I did something I should have done months ago. I investigated what my money was actually funding. I called the wedding planner Jessica had hired. Posed as a curious potential client wanting to know about her services. She gushed about the upcoming Richardson-Hayes wedding. That's when I learned Jessica had told people I was helping a little, but that Brandon's parents were generously funding most of it. My $50,000 had become a little help. I called the florist. Same story. Brandon's family was described as incredibly generous, while I warranted a mention as the bride's grandfather who contributed. I drove past my son's house one evening. Saw him outside with his wife, my daughter-in-law Claire. They were laughing, happy, untroubled. I had contributed to their lives too over the years. Helped with the down payment on that house. Paid for my grandson's orthodontics when their insurance wouldn't cover it. Never asked for recognition, never wanted it. But I had assumed there was respect, appreciation, love that went both ways. I spent those days alone, working in my workshop, thinking. The rocking chair remained unfinished. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jessica called again, excited about final details. She mentioned the seating chart. We've got you at table 12, with Aunt Sarah and some of Dad's cousins. Is that okay? Where is table 12? Oh, it's toward the back, near the kitchen doors. We needed to put the younger crowd up front for the dancing and energy, you know? But you'll still have a good time. Table 12, near the kitchen, at the back, at my own property. That sounds fine, Jessica. Great, only 2 more weeks. I'm so excited I can barely sleep. After we hung up, I called Gerald. I've made my decision, I told him. Are you absolutely certain? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. What do you want me to do? I want you to draft a letter. Professional, legal, clear. The event at Lakeshore Manor is canceled. As the property owner, I'm exercising my right to refuse service. All deposits are forfeited per the standard contract. The venue is no longer available for their wedding. When do you want this delivered? I want it hand-delivered to Jessica at her apartment. I want it delivered at noon on the Thursday before her Saturday wedding. Robert, that's 2 days before her wedding. I know exactly what day it is. Gerald exhaled slowly. All right. But I'm going on record saying this is going to explode spectacularly. Let it explode. I've been quiet for too long. Those final 2 weeks were strange. Jessica called me several more times with last-minute details. Each call, she mentioned how everything was perfect and how nothing could go wrong now. I listened, gave non-committal responses, and felt nothing but a strange calm. I thought about calling her father, warning him, but I remembered his words. Don't make waves. He had made his choice. He chose his daughter's cruelty over his father's dignity. Thursday arrived. At noon exactly, a courier delivered the letter to Jessica's apartment. I was in my workshop when my phone began ringing. I had turned off the ringer. I watched it light up. Jessica's name. Then my son's. Then Claire's. Then Jessica again. Then Brandon's mother, whose number I had from earlier communications. The calls continued for hours. I counted them. By evening, Jessica had called 47 times. Finally, I answered, "Grandpa." She was screaming so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "What did you do? What the hell did you do?" I exercised my rights as a property owner. "What are you talking about? Property owner? What property?" "Lakeshore Manor." "I own it. Have owned it for 22 years. Didn't your father explain how I made my money? It wasn't just building furniture, Jessica. It was investing wisely." The line went silent. Then, "You own the venue?" "I do. And I've decided I don't want to host your wedding." "Because of the photo thing? Are you serious? You're ruining my wedding because I hurt your feelings?" "I'm making a business decision. I don't want to host events where the property owner isn't welcome in photographs. This is insane. This is cruel. How can you do this to me? How could you do what you did to me, Jessica?" "I was being honest. I was trying to make my wedding perfect." And I'm being honest now. I don't want to be part of your perfect wedding. Not in photos, not at table 12, near the kitchen, not at all. Grandpa, please. Her voice shifted to pleading. Please don't do this. We can't find another venue. It's 2 days away. We have 200 guests coming. Please. You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't photogenic enough for your aesthetic. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, Grandpa, please. I'll put you in every photo. You can sit at the head table. Please. No. Grandpa? No, Jessica. I spent $50,000 to fund your dream. I built a rocking chair for your future children. I loved you more than you'll ever understand. And you told me I was too old for your photographs. So no. The answer is no. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off completely. That night my son showed up at my door. His face was red, eyes wild with anger. Dad, you need to fix this right now. I'm not fixing anything. You're destroying my daughter's life over a stupid comment. Your daughter destroyed our relationship with her stupid comment. She's 28. She's young and stupid sometimes. You're the adult. Act like it. I am acting like an adult, son. I'm acting like an adult who respects himself. Something you should have taught your daughter to do. Oh, so now I'm a bad parent? You told me not to make waves. You chose her cruelty over my dignity. Yes, you failed as a parent in this moment. You're unbelievable. Mom would be ashamed of you. That hit harder than anything else. Your mother would have never tolerated Jessica treating me this way, and you know it. He left, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. It was a photo of Jessica's high school graduation. I picked it up, looked at her smiling face, and put it in a drawer. Friday was worse. Brandon's parents showed up. Brandon's mother was a thin, elegant woman who looked at my modest house with barely concealed disdain. Mr. Patterson, I'm sure we can come to an arrangement. Name your price. We'll pay whatever you want for the venue. It's not for sale. Everything is for sale, Mr. Patterson. 50,000? 75? You could offer me $1 million. The answer is still no. Brandon's father, a corporate attorney, tried the intimidation route. You'll be hearing from our lawyers. You can't just cancel an event like this. Actually, I can. Read your contract. I suggest you spend your energy finding a new venue rather than threatening me. They left, and I later learned they tried to book 3 other venues. All were booked solid. Peak wedding season in Chicago. They eventually found a small restaurant that could accommodate 50 people, not 200. Saturday morning arrived, the day that should have been Jessica's perfect wedding. Instead, I went to my workshop. I finished the rocking chair. It was beautiful. Solid oak, smooth joints, carved details on the headrest. It would last generations. I sat in it, rocking slowly, thinking about legacy. What legacy had I been leaving? One of endless giving to people who took it for granted? One of being invisible until I was needed for money? No, this was a better legacy. Self-respect, boundaries, teaching a hard lesson about consequences. My phone remained off all weekend. Monday morning, I turned it back on. 73 missed calls, 41 voicemails, dozens of texts ranging from pleading to vicious to threatening. I deleted them all except one. It was from my younger son, Jessica's uncle Marcus. Marcus and I had always been close. He lived in Seattle, managed tech startups, kept in touch despite the distance. Dad, I heard what happened. I'm going to say something no one else will. Good for you. Jessica called me crying, but when I heard what she said to you, I told her she got what she deserved. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Love you. I saved that voicemail. The months that followed were difficult. My older son stopped speaking to me entirely. Jessica sent one email, 3 months later, apologizing but also detailing how I had traumatized her and ruined the happiest day of her life. There was no acknowledgement that she had ruined something far more important, our relationship built over 28 years. But something unexpected happened. My other grandchildren started reaching out. Marcus's twins, both in college. My daughter's son, a high school junior. They had heard what happened. They wanted to hear my side. I told them the truth. Not to poison them against Jessica, but to teach them something important. Respect isn't negotiable. Love without respect is just obligation. And no one, no matter their age, gets to diminish your worth. Marcus's daughter Emily flew out to visit me 6 months later, 20 years old, studying business. She sat in my workshop, watching me build a dresser. "Grandpa, I need to tell you something," she said. "Last year, Jessica asked Mom and Dad for money for her wedding. When they said they could only spare a few thousand, she got mad and said they were being selfish. Mom cried for days. I stopped working. I didn't know that. There's more. Jessica told me and my sister that we shouldn't expect invitations unless we brought substantial gifts. She sent us a link to her registry with the expensive items highlighted. We decided not to go. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Because you loved her so much, Grandpa. Everyone saw it. No one wanted to hurt you. I set down my tools. She wasn't always like this. No, Emily agreed, but she's been like this for a while. Brandon's family made it worse. They're all about status and appearances. She changed to fit them. I funded that change. You funded her wedding. You didn't make her cruel. She chose that. We sat in silence for a while. The rocking chair, Emily said, pointing to it in the corner. Is that for her? It was. What will you do with it? I thought about it. Maybe I'll give it to you someday. When you're ready. She smiled. I'd like that. When I have kids, I want them to know their great-grandfather, the real one, the one who built beautiful things and had the strength to demand respect. A year has passed now since that phone call, since that canceled wedding. I learned Jessica eventually married Brandon in a small ceremony at the restaurant. The marriage lasted 8 months. Brandon's company downsized. He lost his job, and apparently Jessica, without money, wasn't appealing to his status-conscious family. The divorce was quick. I heard this through Marcus, not through my older son, who still isn't speaking to me. Jessica herself hasn't reached out at all. I saw on social media that she moved to New York, works in marketing, appears happy in photos. I hope she is. Despite everything, I hope she's happy. But I don't regret what I did. I've spent this year rediscovering who I am beyond being helpful grandpa. I've traveled, took a woodworking course in Vermont, started attending a church Sarah used to love, made new friends, people who know me as Robert, not as someone's relative. Last month, I sold Lakeshore Manor. The property market was excellent, and I got far more than it was worth. I've established trust funds for my grandchildren, Marcus's kids, and my daughter's children. Equal amounts, strictly controlled, releasing when they're 30. Not Jessica. She's not included. Some might say that's cruel. I say it's consistent. I'm teaching the same lesson I taught with the wedding. Actions have consequences. Respect matters. Worth isn't negotiable. I've also learned something about myself. I had spent so many years being useful that I forgot to be valued. I had confused being needed with being loved. They're not the same thing. The rocking chair sits in my living room now. I rock in it sometimes, thinking about the future. Maybe Emily will use it. Maybe someone else. Maybe I'll donate it somewhere. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I built it. It's beautiful. And it exists because I wanted to create something lasting. That's legacy. Not money given to ungrateful relatives. Not funding dreams for people who see you as an ATM. Real legacy is knowing your worth and teaching others to know theirs. I'm 68 now. I look in the mirror and see an old man. Gray hair, wrinkles, age spots. Not photogenic by modern standards, perhaps. But I see something else too. I see dignity, self-respect. Someone who finally learned that silence isn't always strength, and enabling isn't always love. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. Jessica learned that 200 guests don't make a marriage. Expensive venues don't guarantee happiness. And grandfathers who love you enough to fund your dreams also love themselves enough to walk away when disrespected. Would I do it differently if I could go back? No. Not a single thing. That phone call was the best, worst thing that ever happened to me. It freed me from being someone I didn't want to be anymore. The always available, always generous, always diminished grandfather. Now I'm just Robert. A man who builds furniture, who travels, who has friends and hobbies and a life beyond being useful to others. A man who is not photogenic by some standards, but is worth knowing by any standard that matters. And that's enough. More than enough. It's everything.